welcome once again to Poetry Jam Cabaret here at the Belmar Public Library. I want to welcome everyone watching us online on the live stream over here. Today we have Art Veilleux and Nancy Koenig over here reading. We have a bunch of poems for you to share. I hope you're going to enjoy. I want to invite you to come down and join us and read poetry or listen and enjoy what we have here the next time. So also, do me a favor, and if you like what you see, like us on the Facebook below this, and write a comment on what you think of what you hear tonight. And keep a lookout for the final edited version of this edited jam when it goes on our website, where it'll have more details such as the poet's name, and the author, and so on. So, with that, why don't we get started? I'll start out with a poem by Rudyard Kipling, who I've done before. I've done Gunga Din by Rudyard Kipling before. But this one's a little different. This one is something a little more personal, a little more about the love and the joy that a dog brings us, but also the heartache when he passes away. So I bring you here The Power of the Dog by Rudyard Kipling. There is sorrow enough in the natural way from men and women to fill our day. And when we are certain of sorrow in store, why do we always arrange for more? Brothers and sisters, I bid you beware of giving your heart to a dog to tear. Buy a pup and your money will buy love unflinching that cannot lie. Perfect passion and worship fed by a kick in the ribs or a pat on the head. Nevertheless, it is hardly fair to risk your heart for a dog to tear. When the 14 years which nature permits are closing in asthma or tumor or fits, and the vet's unspoken prescription runs to lethal chambers or loaded guns, then you will find it's your own affair, but giving your heart to a dog to tear. When the body that lived at your single will, with its whimper and its welcome, is stilled, how still. When the spirit that answered your every mood is gone wherever it goes for good, you will discover how much you care and will give your heart to a dog to tear. We've sorrow enough in the natural way. When it comes to burying Christian clay, our loves are not given, but only lent at compound interest of cent per cent. Though it is not always the case, I believe, that the longer we've kept them, the more do we grieve. For when debts are payable, right or wrong, a short-term loan is as bad as a long. So why in heaven, before we are there, should we give our hearts to a dog to tear? Rudyard Kipling.
He must have been a dog owner.
He must have.
Oh, yeah.
He must have. Wow. But it's so, it just speaks out. I mean, I don't have a dog. I had dogs in the past, and he really does touch it true. So.
I think we all understand the faithfulness of a dog, even if we don't have one ourselves. Because of all the animals that have been with human beings throughout time, I think it's true that a dog is man's best friend.
Yes, that is true. So, the next poem I have here is one by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Born in 1806, she was an English poet of the Victorian era, popular in Britain and the U.S. during her lifetime. She was born in County Durham, the eldest of 11 children. Elizabeth Barrett wrote poetry from the age of 11. Her mother's collection of her poems forms one of the largest collections of juvenilia by any English writer. By 15, she became ill, suffering intense head and spinal pain for the rest of her life. Later in life, she also developed lung problems, possibly tuberculosis. Her first adult collection of poems was published in 1838, and she wrote prolifically between 1841 and 1844, producing poetry, translation, and prose. She campaigned for the abolition of slavery, and her work helped influence reform in the child labor legislation. and her prolific output made her a rival to Tennyson as a candidate for poet laureate on the death of Wordsworth. Elizabeth's work had a major influence on prominent writers of the day, including American poets Edgar Allan Poe and Emily Dickinson. She is remembered for such poems as How Do I Love Thee and Aurora Leigh. So with that, I have here How Do I Love Thee by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight, for the ends of being an ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with a love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears, all of my life. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
That's the classic love poem, isn't it?
Yes. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. That line I've heard since as a child growing up. First time I actually read the poem with it. It's pretty good though. It really does get the true depth of love that she showed. Cool. So those are the two poems that I have. Okay. I'm going to come on and ask Nancy to come up. She's got a poem for us.
Hey, Nancy.
Come on up.
Okay. I have a poem tonight written by Bernadette Knoll. It was a poem that she wrote after, well, as a child, she and her family vacationed here at the Jersey Shore. And she was back here in about 2014. That was about 3 years after her sister passed away at the young age of 57. She was on the beach and she found a piece of sea glass. And it just reminded her that her sister didn't get a chance to live out her life. So this poem is entitled The Sea Glass Poem. I also should mention that after it was written, she noticed that it started to appear anonymously in a variety of places. And at first she was quite annoyed that her work was not being given credit, or she wasn't being given credit for her work. So as time went on, and not much time, I mean, we're only talking like a couple of years here, she got it out there that she was the author of this poem. And so now she enjoys the idea of authorship. She also has gotten together with a place down in Florida that had started printing this poem on various little beach pickup by souvenirs. And she has since partnered with them and will be creating note cards and a variety of other things that she'll be able to collect royalties on. So remember her name. It's Bernadette Knoll, N-O-L-L. And her poem is The Sea Glass Poem. I want to age like sea glass, smoothed by tides, not broken. I want to ride the waves, go with the flow, and feel the impact of the surging tides. When I am caught between the rocks in a hard place, I will rest. And when I'm ready, I will catch a wave and let me carry it where I belong. I want to be picked up and held gently by those who delight in my well-earned patina and appreciate the changes I went through to achieve this luster. I want to enjoy the journey and let my precociousness be not in spite of the impacts, but because of them. I want to age like sea glass. Bernadette Knoll.
Wow.
Good job.
That was wonderful.
That was great.
The poem does a great way of really talking about being able to live alone. And she had also an understanding of what it is why sea glass is sea glass. In that it's not broken glass, it's smooth, it's warm, it's impacted, and it's unique. There's nothing anything like it.
Develop the wisdom
Yes.
that supposedly we
Yeah.
are all developing.
Absolutely. So, fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So next is Art Veilleux. Come on, Art. You got a couple for us?
Okay, yes. Nancy, I really enjoyed that poem. It was a great poem for the Jersey Shore, and I was particularly glad to hear that the poet was able to earn some money from their work, right? Because poetry is like any of the other arts. It's important that poets are supported for their work, and I'm glad to hear that that's something that's happening to Elizabeth. All right, for today, I'm going to continue with something that Lewis has done a few times here at Poetry Jam, and that is to read lyrics from a musician whose work is poetry. And the musician that I'm going to be reading from today is Jackson Browne. And Jackson Browne has written a lot of great songs over the years, and many of them have to do with emotional breakups and the end of relationships. And even before Taylor Swift had written many great songs about those same topics, songs like All Too Well, my very favorite by her, and Mean. Jackson Browne had written Fountain of Sorrow, Opening Goodbye, and the song that I will be reading the lyrics for from the album of the same title, Late for the Sky. Right off the front. I think. Okay. Lyrics. Here we go. All right, I'm ready. Here we go. Jackson Browne's Late for the Sky. All the words had all been spoken, and somehow the feeling still wasn't right. And still, we continued on through the night, tracing our steps from the beginning until they vanished into the air, trying to understand how our lives had led us there. Looking hard into your eyes, there was nobody I'd ever known. Such an empty surprise to feel so alone. Now for me, some words come easy, but I know that they don't mean that much, compared with the things that are said when lovers touch. You never knew what I loved in you. I don't know what you loved in me. Maybe the picture of somebody you were hoping I might be. Awake again, I can't pretend, and I know I'm alone and close to the end of the feeling we've known. How long have I been sleeping? How long have I been drifting alone through the night? How long have I been dreaming I could make it right if I closed my eyes and tried with all my might to be the one you need? How long have I been sleeping? How long have I been drifting along through the night? How long have I been running for that morning flight through the whispered promises and the changing light of the bed where we both lie? late for the sky. Jackson Browns. I also have a few other poems, and maybe I'll read two more, and then you go on with a poem or two. All right? So the next poem I'm going to read is a poem by Elizabeth McKinstry, and this is one of those whimsical poems that I enjoy so much. It's called The Man Who Hid His Front Door, and it goes like this. There was a little elvish man who lived beside a moor, a shy, secretive, furtive soul who hid his own front door. He went and hid his door beneath a pink laburnum bush. The neighbors saw the curtains blow and heard a singing thrush. The banker came and jingled gold. It did not serve him there. The honey-colored walls rose up, unbroken and foursquare. The mayor called, and Mrs. Pitt, with cordials and game pie. There was not any door at all. They had to pass him by. But my little sister, her eyes were wild and sweet. She wore blue faded calico and no shoes on her feet. She found the wandering door in place and easily went through into a strange and mossy hall where bowls of old Delft blue held feast of blackberries like gems in webs of shiny dew. There stood that little elvish man and smiled to see her too. So, as I've mentioned with other poems, I learned things from reading these poems. I was unaware of what Delft blue was, bowls of old Delft blue, but I have a picture here of something that is of that pattern, a Dutch pattern of plates and tableware. So Delft blue. Hope you can see that at home.
Pulido.
That's good. That's good. All right. I'm going to read one more poem, and then Louis will come up. This is the second reading of Leigh Hunt's poem, The Glove and the Lions. And it's a poem about vanity. King Francis was a hardy king and loved a royal sport. And one day, as his lions fought, sat looking on the court. The nobles filled the benches and the ladies in their pride, and amongst them was the Count de Large, and one for whom he sighed. And truly, 'twas a gallant thing to see the crowning show, valor and love, and king above, and the royal beasts beloved. Ramped and roared the lions with hard laughing jaws. They bit, they glared, gave blows like beams. A wind went with their paws. With wallowing might and stiffened roar, they rolled one on another, till all the pit with sand and mane was a thunderous smother. The bloody foam above the bars came whisking through the air. Said Francis then, "Faith, gentlemen, we're better here than there." De Large's love overheard the king, a boisterous, lively dame, with smiling lips and sharp, bright eyes, which always seemed the same. She thought, "The Count, my lover, is as brave can be. He surely would do wondrous things to show his love for me. King, ladies, lovers, all look on. The occasion is divine. I'll drop my glove to prove his love. Great glory will be mine." She dropped her glove to prove his love, then looked at him and smiled. He bowed, and in a moment leaped into the lion's wild. The leap was quick, return was quick. He has regained his place. then threw the glove, but not with love, right in the lady's face. In truth, cried Francis, rightly done. And he rose from where he sat. No love, quoth he, but vanity sets love a task like that.
Well-deserved rebuke.
Right? You don't ask the person you love to jump into a pit of ferocious lions to retrieve a hand glove. All right, next up.
All right. I'm up. All right. Here we go. I want to welcome Terri Faugno for joining us tonight. How you doing? Welcome. Do you have something you want to read tonight? Or you just want to instruct? You have a couple things?
Great.
All right, great. All right, so I got a couple.
Whatever you need.
Okay, I got a couple poems, and then you're still going to do the one, right?
If time permits.
Absolutely. Time's up. So I'll do a couple. You're done, right?
I'm done.
All right, so Terri, you'll go after me, and then Art will bring us home. All right? All right, so this next poem I have over here is written by W.H. Auden. Okay? Wystan Hugh Auden was an Anglo-American poet. His poetry was noted for its stylistic and technical achievement and engagement with politics, moral, love, and religion, and its variety in tone, form, and content. He was born in York and grew up in and near Birmingham in a professional middle-class family. In 1939, he moved to the U.S. and became an American citizen, retaining his British citizenship. He taught from 1941, 1944, and 45, in American universities, followed by occasional visiting professorships in the 1950s. Now, The Unknown Citizen, which he wrote, which I'm about to read here, was written in 1939 when the rise of authoritarian dictatorships in Germany and Italy threatens to drive freedom and democracy from Europe and the world. Even the free societies in the U.S., Great Britain, and France were restricting some freedoms because of fear. And that was the historical backdrop in which this poem was written. And it's a critique of authoritarian regimes and how they dehumanize or brainwash people, suggesting that the subject, of whom we do not even know his name, lived a saintly life as far as the state was concerned, but to a free living person like us, it sounds that he did not live a happy life, being forced to live how the state dictated. So here we are, An Unknown Citizen by W.H. Auden. 2 JS 07N 378. This marble monument is erected by the state. He was found by the Bureau of Statistics to be one against whom there was no official complaint. And all the reports on his conduct agree that in the modern sense of an old-fashioned word, he was a saint. For in everything he did, he served the greater community. Except for the war, till the day he retired, he worked in a factory and never got fired, but satisfied his employers, Fudge Motors, Inc. Yet he wasn't a scab or odd in his views, for his union reports that he paid his dues. Our report on his union shows it was sound, and our social psychology workers found that he was popular with his mates and liked to drink. The press are convinced that he bought a paper every day, and that his reactions to advertisements were normal in every way. Policies taken out in his name prove that he was fully insured, and his health card shows he was once in hospital, but left it cured. Both producers research and high-grade living declare he was fully sensible to the advantages of the installment plan, and had everything necessary to the modern man: a phonograph, a radio, a car, and a Frigidaire. Our research into public opinion are content that he held the proper opinions for the time of year. When there was peace, he was for peace. When there was war, he went. He was married and added 5 children to the population, which our eugenist says was the right number for a parent of his generation. And our teachers report that he never interfered with their education. Was he free? Was he happy? The question is absurd. Had anything been wrong, we should certainly have heard. WHR.
Very interesting poem.
Yes.
A little Miniford Chibi.
Huh?
Miniford Chibi.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, remember that poem from high school?
Uh-huh.
Miniford Chibi went to town. It was like a saga about him. I don't remember the poem, but all I know is, it was about a profile of somebody who was a simple man
Mm-hmm.
who had values of some sort. And it, kind of reflects that.
It sounds like that. But this man really didn't have any values of his own, did he?
He was given value.
He was given values.
He was given
He was
values
given
that
values
he
here in
adhered
this,
to
yeah, and
in
he
the
hears
society.
he
And
lived
it made him content.
Yes.
Not euphoric, but
not happy.
I agree.
content.
He was content because he was able to live his life
Right.
without even being bothered enough by the state to know his name. They know him as a number, okay? They don't even know his name. And because he did not ruffle any feathers, he had the right opinions. And because of that, and he lived by the state's wishes, it didn't even make an impression. So, which is anathema to people like us, because here we live in a society where, to live a life where you have no impression is almost tragic, because we have so much potential to do things. And so we honor those who impress, we honor those who achieve. He was not much of an achiever, but that's the way the state run. And that was to critique that he was talking, WHR was talking about how authoritarian dictatorships can dehumanize and hold us back from who we are. So that was that's a pretty profound poem to listen to, and sometimes you wonder, does it apply today? And it does to some degree if you carry the logic.
We're all that citizen to some degree.
Yeah, we're all that to some degree. That's true. Society does have its
But it was a simpler time. There was no TV. People only listened to the radio. They might read the newspapers.
He had all the modern conveniences of his day, though.
Yeah, he had a
Frigidaire.
Oh,
He had a
right.
Frigidaire. There you go. Exactly.
So
You
that
know,
made him
Iceman
happy.
coming.
Made him happy.
Could it be like the modern day idea of the Joneses? And we all keep living the Joneses.
right.
Well, what are the Joneses doing? So, all right. So this next one, this is the last one that I have for tonight. Before I'll bring up Terry, we'll see what you got, and then Art. I'm going to talk about another. It turns out the lyrics of another song. If anyone here is Gordon Lightfoot fans,
Big time.
oh,
And
you're gonna love
I'm
this
gonna
one.
drink water.
Yeah, go ahead.
I-
Oh, you're gonna love this one, because I'm doing the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Yes. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Edmund Fitzgerald was an American Great Lakes freighter that sank in Lake Superior during a storm on November 10, 1975, with the loss of the entire crew of 29 men. When launched on June 7, 1958, she was the largest ship on North America's Great Lakes, and she remains the largest to have sunk there. And she was located in deep water on November 14, 1975, by a U.S. Navy aircraft detecting magnetic anomalies, and soon found afterwards to be in two large pieces. The wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is a 1976 hit song written, composed, and performed by Canadian singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot to commemorate the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald on Lake Superior. He drew his inspiration from Newsweek's article of the event, The Cruelest Month, which was published in November 24, 1975. Lightfoot considered this song to be his finest work. So here we go. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they called Gitchigumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty, that good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early. The ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and good captain well seasoned. Concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms, when they left fully loaded for Cleveland, and later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd be feeling? The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound, and a wave broke over the railing, and every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing. The dawn came late, and the breakfast had to wait, when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed you." At 7 p.m., the main hatchway caved in. He said, "Fellas, it's been good to know you." The captain wired in he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. And later that night, when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they put 15 more miles behind it. They might have split up, or they might have capsized. They might have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Lake Huron rolls, Superior sings, in the rooms of her ice-water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. And the iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remember. In a musty old hall in Detroit they prayed. In the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral, the church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down, of the big lake they called Gitchigumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.
Wonderful.
What a great description of what happened to her.
Yeah.
You know, it's frightening to hear it. You know, it's kind of like, could you imagine being on a ship in a storm like that? Oh. Huh?
He nailed it with that.
Oh,
He
yeah.
sang it, the music,
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, yeah.
And if anybody heard Paul Solinsky sing it, did they?
No.
Well, I got Paul to sing it. And he said, I might remember it. And I think he might have been with somebody like Nash Graham or Crosby or something. He was with some good group.
Yeah.
And he said, I might, he says, you're really testing me. But he tried it and he did it.
Great.
He did it, and then I hear him sing it every time we went out. I could hear him.
It's too bad he's no longer with us. We could
I know, but I
hopefully enjoy
give
it.
him credit.
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
to acknowledge him.
Absolutely.
It became part of his repertoire.
What?
If the song became part of his usual
Yeah.
performance,
Yep.
Okay.
I'm
Yes.
sure everybody appreciated it because you
Oh,
don't
they
hear it
did.
that often.
Yeah.
And then Taxi was another one that I asked him to sing because
It was
my brother
Raymond
was
Harlan
a taxi
Fisker.
driver in New York. And it was like every time he'd only sing it when I was there.
Oh, okay.
It was special.
So, Terry, you want to come up and share a couple poems with us? All right.
I brought a few poems with me.
I can see.
A select few.
Well, now this one here I like to tell a story
Sure.
behind the poems
Sure,
that I've
absolutely.
written. Okay. This one was written on the morning of September the 12th, and I had been out on the beach. I don't know if everyone has been out. Was out on the beach on September the 11th. All right. So you saw that gray over the horizon. And there were people standing in different spots, and everybody was quiet. So the next morning at 6, I woke up and I wrote this poem, and when my Jim, who's now passed, called me before we were married, he was up in Maplewood. He called me, and I told him I wrote a poem, and he said, I read it to him, and I was crying, and he said, I need one line, help with it. Help me with it. But I think it was a year and a half later, I have the letter. When we were in the Keys that year, in October, and we flew over, it was like Dresden. Everybody's getting up out of their seats to look at that ground zero. But we met a waitress that was from Washington, D.C., and she came down to the Keys, and she was waitressing in Marathon, and nobody was in the Keys. It was October, a month later. And I gave her a couple of my poems. And so a year and a half later, she wrote me a letter, and she gave me one of her lithographs. So when Jim passed, I put this on his gravestone, because I knew it would have a lot of meaning, because he always helped me with
Jim was your husband?
You met
Yeah.
him? Yeah. Okay. And it's called, this is about standing on the beach on September 11, 2001. It's called The Final Path. Gray angel dust makes its way across a serene blue sky. Minuscule particles of atoms of life drifted past the horizon at dusk over the sea, each waiting to enter into the celestial peace of heaven. Oh, sweet Jesus, our man-made castle in the sky has fallen. Ashes of our hopes and our dreams only remain. Who cannot be so humble as to not feel the pain? I wait, I stand there and wait on the soft sandy soil of the sea. And I pray for the souls who had once been mortals and hear the soft whisper of the wind, so gently calling them to me. And yet, before I walk away, I feel I must bow my head and pray as the silent tears which I shed dampen my soot-stained face. I recall the words of long ago. Remember, man, thou art dust, and unto dust thou shalt return. So this was sent all over the world, my friends and mine. I hear and guessing it would be something that would emote a lot.
And that was one you wrote yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This one is one Jim would put the background on it.
Oh, okay.
Get it from Belmar or whatever, but I had this that I wrote about 2 years after we met, and it's called My Captain. He was a fisherman, angler. I guess you are too. Are you? You're not, because you have the boat shoes. That's why I was going. Okay, it's called My Captain. And I didn't know when I was writing it that it has some symmetry to it. Later on, I found out that is a craft to develop. So innately, I developed it. And I started writing my poems because I used to go and collect at Carnegie Library's children's poems. So, I loved poems that were presented. I wish I had seen, heard yours. But in any event, this is called My Captain. And we were in, not the very beginning, but in the beginning of our relationship. And we were married, we were together for 17 years before we passed. My captain, in the harbor of my heart, a mystical fog surrounds me. A sailing ship comes closer, and my thoughts and dreams abound. For you are the captain of my life in my sea of perpetual dreams. For you are the navigator of my wanton heart, and through dawn's mist and early light, I need search no more for a yearning sight. For it does not matter how long we may stay apart. While I am on land, and you are in my solid sea, I will weather any storm and stoically await the sailing vessel, since you have become a part of me. And I do have to acknowledge that Jim was a distant relative of Patty. We have the same last name.
Good job.
So did you write that early? You were that early in the
2003,
Oh, okay,
it says I wrote it.
Oh, okay.
Now, there's a couple of poems that I actually sold in this format,
Oh,
like this
okay.
in art galleries. And here's another one that was written like that. Now the 9/11 one about at least 2 seafaring poems. But I like the saga poems. I call these my commercial poems.
Wow.
Because I sold them, so.
Oh, these are the money makers. So.
Well, not much, but
Good
I
for
mean, at
you.
least it was an acknowledgement, a validation, and I have never published, but I do want to. Beckoning Call, it's about a lighthouse. It's beacon calls the angry waves. The sea-laden mist and fog surround it. The sailor who beholds its gallant grace worships from whence the silvered light comes, a sacred and most holy place. Though there may be many fierce torrential storms, the biting rain and bone-numbing winter's chill invite the light of the night to never be still. And here's another one that's about the sea, the allure of the sea, and yeah, it worked well in the frame, you know. Okay, allure of the sea. The lure of the sea, see, I had it as a lure of the sea.
Lure?
A-L-L-U-R-E. But when I
lure.
wrote it,
Yeah.
I wrote it the lure, L-U-R-E, of the sea.
Oh, the lure of the sea. Okay.
Yeah, the lure of the sea has an effect on you and me. The hazel mist of moonlight that brings forth the evening night. The enchanted, fulfilled dreams of summer's children frolicking amidst the amber waves and listening sand so bright. And while men of water's worth harvest the majestic ocean crop and separate the worship sea from mortals, heaven and earth, the oceans listen and then respond with roughened waves of what may be that some say lays beyond. Lays beyond or lies beyond?
Lies.
I knew you were going to nail it and tell me. I made a few errors in this. I can see another one. But I have a few more, but I
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know what?
No, please.
So, I'm content.
This was I put it to my coworkers that I worked in civil service. I loved a lot of them, but I had
There's always a few.
yeah.
There's
right.
always a few.
So I wrote a poem for my farewell, okay?
Okay.
And I was just getting married at the time, okay? I put my 25 years in. I would have stayed another year, but it was just it was just horrible. So here's my poem, my sayonara poem, Terry's farewell poem. Now it's my time to finally say goodbye, and I don't feel the need or the reason to cry, although I'm proud to know it's my time to go. I have reason to celebrate because all of you have been so great. My time has come, I must walk away with a smile, and yet I want to stay for just a little while and clear my throat and say to you all that I will now hold my head up and stand tall. Against all odds, I tried my best, and now I know it's time for me to rest. A gallant victory I have won because I have worked for 25 years and been able to raise my 3 wonderful sons. And as things in life go along the way, we sometimes trip and fall or get backed up against a wall. Yet despite what obstacles we may along our path meet, the heart of a friend that cares is something that can't be beat. You've showed me with encouragement and your friendly, caring ways that what I have in store for me are many happy days. I have a wonderful man in my life who has made me his wife, and I can turn to him in times of joy and strife, and I'm as fortunate as can be for considering some of you extended family. But while looking around me now and seeing your faces, I feel your proverbial warm embraces, and my arms are open here for a hug that we can share, and I will try my best not to shed a tear, for I know that no matter what place in life I will go, the picture I will see in my mind of us standing here today will help to sustain me in finding my way. So as I say goodbye, I promise you again not to cry, and I must felt my first tear drop from my eye. I kiss this tear and toast to you all for your graciousness to me, since it is in plain view for all of you to see. And when a stranger evolves from an acquaintance to a friend, it is a transition that will never end. So such is the time here with those of you I have met, and And now both of my eyes are really wet, and this is a special moment I will never forget. It was 2007. Of course, I had a couple of other things in my head that I would, no, but most of the people there were there because they wanted to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What a great way to say goodbye.
It was because I kind of put it to the, you know.
Well, I heard
need
that
to be
line, you know, that some of them you will.
Did I
you
say
know,
that?
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. Well, some of you will be, you know, special friends.
Part of his family.
So, yeah, some of you.
Not all of you.
No.
That's okay.
That's fine.
You're allowed to have those feelings.
You didn't name names, that was the important.
No,
That's right.
no, I didn't have to. I did not
They all knew.
completely
That's true.
trust
They
me.
knew who they were.
Yeah. In fact, I left about a week and a half before I got married, and then I came back for like, I put in like 4 days or something like that.
Mm.
And my supervisor said to my coworker, who she had the hospital, and I was a good friend with her. She goes, "You're doing her part. You're doing it." And it turned out beautiful. If you would like at some time to read this, Louis, it's a poem that I had from the 60s when I was a social worker in Essex County, and a doctor's wife who was also a social worker gave me. And it's about a woman in a nursing home. And I think I've seen it on the internet since then. If you want to read that, I can sort of look for some more poetry, and then I can give somebody else a chance. If there's any time, I'll give you some more.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
So
I will.
that's a fun one.
All
I mean,
right.
it's not a fun one. It's a touching one.
Okay.
And can you see who it's written by?
It's handwritten here. A Elixir? I'll have to see. We'll look them up.
No.
Oh, it's on here?
Here, read that.
Okay. All right, I'll read it now. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay. This is a poem. When an old lady died in the geriatric ward of Ashluty Hospital near Dundee, Scotland, it appeared she had left nothing of any value. Then a nurse, going through her possessions, found the following poem. The quality of this work so impressed the staff that copies were made and distributed to the nurses throughout the hospital. The poem has appeared in several publications, and we are publishing it here for our readers as an old lady's bequest to posterity. Now, I can't quite make out the name here, it doesn't say, but...
Well, you know, yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
so-
important. It's almost like she's anonymous.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the poem. Well, the message. What do you see, nurses? What do you see? Are you thinking when you are looking at me? A crabby old woman, not very wise, uncertain of habit with faraway eyes, who dribbles her food and makes no reply. When you say in a loud voice, I do wish you tried, who seems not to notice the things that you do, and forever is losing a stocking or a shoe. Who, unresisting or not, lets you do as you will, with bathing and feeding the long day to fill. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you see? Then open your eyes, nurse. You're not looking at me. I'll tell you who I am as I sit here so still, as I use at your bidding, as I eat at your will. I'm a small child of 10 with a father and mother, brothers and sisters who love one another. A young girl of 16 with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon now a lover she'll meet. A bride soon at 20, my heart gives a leap, remembering the vows that I promised to keep. At 25, now I have young of my own, who need me to build a secure, happy home. A woman of 30, my young now grow fast, bound to each other with ties that should last. At 40, my young sons have grown and are gone, but my man's beside me to nap. But my man's beside me to know I don't mourn. At 50, once more babies play around my knee. Again we know children, my loved one and me. Dark days are upon me, my husband is dead. I look at the future, I shudder with dread. For my young are all rearing young of their own, and I think of the years and the love that I've known. I'm an old woman now, and nature is cruel. 'Tis her jest to make old age look like a fool. The body it crumbles, grace and vigor depart. There is now a stone where I once had a heart. But inside this old carcass a young girl still dwells, and now and again my battered heart swells. I remember the joys, I remember the pain, and I'm loving and living life over again. I think of the years all too few, gone too fast, and accept the stark fact that nothing can last. So open your eyes, nurses, open and see. Not a crabby old woman. Look closer. See me.
Good.
I love it.
I know.
And I mean, that's an
What a
old,
wonderful
old
poem.
poem.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you.
The sentiment is not old. You
No,
know?
Right.
It lives today.
absolutely.
And it lived even before that poem was written.
I think it reminds us that, yeah, what we see a lot in maybe like an old person who is falling physically and stuff like that, we kind of forget the liveliness of their lives. And I'll be honest, it kind of like opened my eyes to, I'm dealing with a situation with my father, and he's showing signs of, early signs of dementia. But this kind of reminds me to remember him that he too had a life, he too had dreams, he had happiness, he had some achievements, but he had his challenges. But he's still someone, probably deep inside, looking to come out. And it's something to remember as I deal with it. This is a great poem. Thank you for sharing this. This was a wonderful poem. Thank you so much.
Connected to the sea glass poem in some way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what? I think what I would love to do is we're doing a series of speakers about.
I'll need that, you can get.
We'll make a copy of this, and I'll probably share it with that group. You know, I think that would be a time, very
I
nice.
think it would be perfect.
It would be wonderful.
Perfect.
So we'll do that. Thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to invite Art. Come on up. Take us home.
Okay.
All right. Patty, you heading out?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take it from here.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good night.
Patty.
Good night, all. Wonderful job tonight.
Thank you.
Well, I have another repeat poem for tonight. This one Louis has done, and it's been done by many others, including others here at the Belmar Library. It's Alfred Tennyson's The Charge of the Light Brigade. Now, this is a rather old book, and I know that Alfred Tennyson is a poet who lived quite a while ago. But when I say the name, I want to say Alfred Lord Tennyson. Is that
Correct.
familiar
That's
to you,
correct.
that
It's
title?
more Alfred Lord than anything.
I wonder if the book was published before he received the honorarium of being made a lord.
It depends. Some
Could
books
be an
give
old
it.
book.
Some books give it that. Other books don't.
All right. Well, he was a wonderful poet, and this is his wonderful The Charge of the Light Brigade. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the Light Brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the Light Brigade, was there a man dismayed? Not, though the soldiers knew someone had blundered. Theirs was not to make reply, theirs was not to reason why, theirs was but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannons to the right of them, cannons to the left of them, cannons in front of them, volleyed and thundered, stormed with shot and shell. Boldly they rode, and well, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. Flashed all their sabers bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there, charging an army, while all the world wondered. Plunged in the battery smoke, right through the line they broke, Cossack and Russian, reeled from the saber stroke, shattered and sundered. They rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, Cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered, stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell. They that fought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell, all that was left of them, left of the 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made, all the world wondered. Honor and charge they made, honor the light brigade, noble 600.
Very good.
Thanks.
Very, very good.
What was that battle? Where was it? In the Revolutionary War?
No, this was,
India, wasn't it?
no, this is Crimean War.
Oh,
This is the Battle of Balaclava in 1854, I believe it is.
good job.
During the
Oh,
Crimean War. So, and it tells
So
the story.
Cossacks and Russians.
Cossacks and Russians.
Whoa.
So it tells the story of the British Army's poor communication skills at the time, where a group of 600 light cavalry soldiers were ordered to charge a set of guns that were actually British guns that were stolen by Russian marauders off a hill. But because of poor communications, the commanders of the Charge Brigade did not know that the guns were elsewhere because the hill hid it. The only guns they saw were the Russian guns sitting ahead at the end of the valley, and they charged them. And military
Cannons to the right of them.
cannons to the right.
Cannons to the left of
There was
them.
they charged in a bit where the Russians had guns on the hills on both sides and the hills in the front, and they were like pounded on before they even got there. And it was a tragic, but it was a brave thing to do. And the poem really speaks to the bravery and courage of those soldiers
Valor,
and
yeah.
the valor of them charging the guns, even though they knew it was military madness for light cavalry. All they had was pistols and sabers to charge entrenched cannon positions, and the Russians just like literally
Mowed them down.
mowed them down. So.
Okay, well, a well-known poem and worth a second reading for sure.
Absolutely. Well
We
done.
learned something more too about it.
Yes,
Huh?
so thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lewis is great at that.
Oh,
He always has that little
President
extra
story.
bit.
So with that, I want to close out tonight. I want to thank everyone for coming as our poetry jam for tonight. I hope you like what you saw. Please leave comments and likes on the comments below. Let us know what you think, which poems you liked, and join us next time for the next poetry jam. And we will see what else we have coming for you. And join us to read as well. Until then, thank you very much. We look forward to having you. Have a great night.
Yay.
All right, thank you. I'll edit that out.
I think we got that one. Yeah.